With more than 29% of its population already over the age of 65, Japan is the fastest aging country in the world, while livestock farming is an industry that demands a large number of young, strong, and resilient workers. On top of that, only about 12% of its land is suitable for agriculture. Combined with harsh climate conditions, frequent natural disasters, and production costs among the highest in Asia. Yet every year, Japan's livestock industry still produces more than 8 million tons of meat, milk, and eggs, with many products positioned in the premium segment, sought after worldwide and sold at high prices. So what allows a country lacking labor, land, and even natural advantages to build one of the world's most valuable livestock industries? Today, let Agriculture Insight explore how the Japanese have redefined modern livestock farming, where technology, precision, and optimization have pushed the value of every liter of milk and every kilogram of meat to an almost perfect level. Let's get started. Located in the far north of Japan, with a cool climate year-round, summers that rarely exceed 25 degrees Celsius, and vast grasslands rarely seen in a country as compact as Japan, Hokkaido is considered the dairy kingdom of the land of the rising sun. It not only leads in production, but is also regarded as the quality benchmark for Asia's dairy industry. Each year, this region produces more than 3.8 million tons of raw milk, accounting for nearly 50% of Japan's total milk production, an overwhelming figure compared with the rest of the country. Thanks to more than 1 million hectares of agricultural land, dairy farms in Hokkaido are far larger than the Japanese average, where most farming households operate on small plots and face intense land pressure. But wide pastures are not the deciding factor. What truly turns Hokkaido milk into an icon lies in the famous livestock farming philosophy the Japanese call happy cow premium milk. Here, people believe that a happy cow produces milk of exceptional quality. And to create these happy lady cows, every process is controlled almost absolutely. On dairy farms in Hokkaido, calves are cared for like newborn athletes from the very moment they are born. Immediately after birth, each calf is separated into a sterile care area to minimize the risk of bacterial infection. Within the first 24 hours, they must drink antibody-rich colostrum, the vital source of nutrition that determines their lifelong immunity. After that, their diet is calculated precisely down to the gram, combining premium milk replacer, young hay, concentrated feed, and trace minerals. Each day, every calf is fed milk in 2 to 3 fixed sessions, almost perfectly on schedule. Sensors monitor body temperature, growth rate, and feed intake, helping farmers detect any abnormal signs within just a few hours. It takes at least 22 to 24 months for a female calf to mature physically, become pregnant for the first time, and officially enter the milk production cycle. The Japanese do not raise cows to produce milk as quickly as possible. They raise them to become strong, healthy animals capable of delivering high and stable yields for many years. A new day on any dairy farm in Hokkaido begins with cleaning. The cows' resting areas are covered with clean, dry sawdust bedding or sand, which is constantly replaced. Temperature, humidity, and airflow are always controlled by smart ventilation systems. For the Japanese, one of the biggest secrets behind creating happy cow ladies lies in the living environment. It must be clean, dry, quiet, and as stress-free as possible. Because when cows become stressed, rising cortisol levels can clearly reduce both milk quality and milk yield. But if there's one factor that makes Hokkaido milk famous for its deep, creamy richness, clean, sweet aftertaste, and distinctive aroma, it is the diet. The basic menu for cows in Hokkaido includes premium Timothy hay, fermented corn silage, protein-rich alfalfa, and a precisely blended mix of vitamins and minerals. Most of the ingredients have clear origins, with many grown directly in Hokkaido's own fields and harvested at the right stage of nutritional maturity. After that, everything is fed into the TMR system, total mixed ration, where automatic mixers blend the feed evenly so that every bite the cows eat contains the proper nutritional balance. A high-producing cow here eats more than 50 kilograms of feed per day, divided into several meals. Feeding times must be almost perfectly precise. The almost obsessive discipline of the Japanese, seen in every field, is present even in the way they feed cows. And it is also the key that unlocks the top-tier quality of Japanese products. What makes it even more special is that from late spring to early autumn, when the weather is cool and the pastures are at their best, the cows are released onto vast grasslands, almost like a form of mental therapy for these dairy ladies. Many studies in Japan show that cows allowed to graze periodically have more stable milk fat levels and a significantly lower rate of mastitis, a soft secret, yet an extremely important one, behind the distinctive flavor of Hokkaido milk. When it is time for milking, the cows are guided into the milking area by an automatic guiding system. Before milking, the teats must be thoroughly disinfected with a specialized solution to remove dirt and bacteria, reduce the risk of mastitis, and prevent contamination of the first flow of milk. Many large farms use AI-integrated milking robots that can identify each individual cow, clean the teats, attach the milking equipment, and monitor milk quality in real time. Each cow is usually milked 2 to 3 times per day, producing an average of 30 to 40 liters of milk daily, while high-yielding individuals can exceed 50 liters. Immediately after leaving the udder, the milk is cooled down to 4 degrees Celsius within just a few minutes to prevent bacterial growth, then passes through a series of strict inspections before it qualifies to enter the processing line. Compared with the Netherlands, Hokkaido cow's milk is often 1.5 to 2 times more expensive, not to mention premium products such as artisanal cheese, fresh cream, and high-end butter, which are always among the most expensive in Asia, contributing to the nearly $29.6 billion in annual revenue of Japan's dairy industry. That reputation has been built over decades of accumulated technology, near absolute precision, and a philosophy of respecting livestock that few places pursue to the very end. But today, farmer aging, labor shortages, rising feed costs, and post-COVID-19 demand fluctuations are making the standards that once built this dairy kingdom increasingly difficult to maintain. The Wagyu version of pork. That is the name the culinary world has long given to Japanese black pigs, also known as kurobuta. Originating from the Berkshire breed of England and introduced to Japan in the late 19th century, this pig has been selectively bred by the Japanese for more than 100 years to become one of Asia's most premium pork lines, with prices today reaching up to $50 per kilogram, around 5 times more expensive than regular pork. In Kagoshima Prefecture, which accounts for more than 70% of Japan's kurobuta production, around 870,000 pigs are currently raised under strict standards, generating an estimated $420 million in annual revenue for local farmers. To this day, Japanese black pigs still retain the distinctive traits of their Berkshire ancestors, with jet black coats and the famous 6 white points, 6 characteristic white markings on the snout, 4 feet, and tail, giving them a truly unique appearance. But what turns them into a legend lies in the quality of the meat. Fine muscle fibers, evenly distributed intramuscular fat like marble veins, and a higher level of umami-producing amino acids than regular pork, making the meat tender and sweet without feeling greasy. The secret behind this premium pork lies in a slow raising method combined with controlled movement and carefully managed nutrition, passed down by Japanese farmers through generations. While ordinary industrial pigs can be ready for market in just 5 to 6 months, black pigs require nearly twice as long in a comfortable environment, with well-ventilated barns kept at 18 to 23 degrees Celsius and exceptionally clean air. Stocking density is kept below 12 pigs per pen to prevent stress, a silent enemy of meat quality. For at least 60 days before slaughter, the pigs are given more grains and Kagoshima sweet potatoes to enhance the sweetness and glossy texture of the fat. Japanese black pigs are highly active and need light daily movement to keep their muscles firm and their fat evenly distributed. This is also one of the secrets behind the tender, juicy, umami-rich slices of Kurobuta pork. A raw egg can preserve the rich, silky texture of the yolk, its natural sweetness, and the distinctive creamy mouthfeel that a cooked egg does not have. But along with that comes the risk of salmonella, a bacterium that can cause serious food poisoning. That is why, in most countries, health authorities advise against eating raw eggs regularly. But in Japan, things are completely different. Every year, Japanese people consume more than 20 billion eggs, among the highest levels in the world, and it is estimated that nearly half of them are eaten raw in various forms. In fact, tamago kake gohan, rice topped with raw egg, has been a national breakfast dish for millions of Japanese people for generations. So what makes eggs in Japan different from the rest of the world, allowing raw egg consumption to become so normalized? To find the answer, let's begin where this entire industry takes shape, the industrial hatchery. The difference appears from the very first seeds. Eggs used for hatching must come from parent flocks that have been strictly controlled for disease, genetics, and nutrition. They are then further disinfected with UV light or formalin vapor before officially entering the incubator. Modern incubation systems maintain a temperature of around 37.5 degrees, along with extremely stable humidity and oxygen levels, while automatically turning the eggs dozens of times a day so the embryos can develop evenly. After about 21 days, the eggs begin to crack. And if human society once held a preference for sons over daughters in many Eastern cultures, then in the world of the egg industry, the balance is completely reversed. Whether in China, Japan, or any other country, male chicks have almost no value, simply because they cannot lay eggs. All male chicks are culled immediately after birth, and the brief time they see the light inside the hatchery is counted only in seconds. By contrast, all female chicks are health-checked, vaccinated, and automatically sorted before being transferred to rearing farms, where they become biological machines, supplying eggs for Japan's food industry. Compared with many other countries, Japan's industrial chicken farming system is not too different in structure. But to produce eggs that can be eaten raw safely, almost every step is pushed to a far more extreme standard. From the quality of drinking water, feed, and air, to bacterial control inside the barns. At first, the chicks are raised together in high-temperature brooding areas. As their down gradually gives way to full feathers, and their immune systems become more stable, they are moved to rearing houses to prepare for the egg-laying stage. About 5 to 6 months after arriving at the farm, the hens begin laying the first eggs of their lives. A hen can lay almost every day, producing around 300 eggs per year. On farms with hundreds of thousands of hens, daily output can reach millions of eggs, enough to supply an entire city. So how are that many eggs collected? Technology takes care of it. Automatic conveyor systems move the eggs away from the nests just minutes after they are laid, minimizing contact with manure, dust, or bacteria inside the barn. Immediately after leaving the farm, the eggs are transported to a processing facility in specialized refrigerated trucks. Here, they go through a series of steps that look more like a semiconductor production line than an ordinary food factory. Washing with warm disinfecting water, drying with clean air, and high-speed LED candling to detect shell cracks, blood spots, or foreign matter inside. Many modern systems also use AI cameras capable of inspecting tens of thousands of eggs per hour. Any eggs that fail to meet the standard are removed immediately. It is this almost obsessive salmonella control process that has helped Japanese eggs become one of the safest types of eggs in the world for raw consumption. In international markets, a tray of premium Japanese eggs can cost several times more than ordinary industrial eggs in China or Southeast Asia. But for Japanese consumers, they are not just buying an egg. They are buying enough peace of mind to crack a raw egg directly over a bowl of hot rice. In restaurants across Japan, it is easy to find bowls of tamago kake gohan made with nothing more than hot rice, soy sauce, and a raw egg freshly cracked into the center. Even when eaten raw, Japanese eggs have almost no strong fishy smell. Instead, they are surprisingly rich, sweet, and smooth. However, for those unfamiliar with the slimy texture of raw egg white, the experience can be a real culture shock. Many people may not know this, but Japan consumes more than 70% of the world's freshwater eel supply, more than any other country on Earth. At one point, the Japanese eel, Anguilla japonica, was even listed as endangered due to decades of heavy consumption and overfishing in Japan. Today, Japan has successfully developed commercial eel farming. But there is one fascinating detail. Most eel juveniles still have to be caught from the wild. The reason is that the reproductive life cycle of this fish remains extremely mysterious. Young eels, known as glass eels, are caught when they are only as thin as noodles and nearly transparent like glass. Yet their price can reach 5,000 to 35,000 USD per kilogram, making them as valuable as white gold during years of shortage. Compared to many other fish species, eel farming is far more difficult because eels are extremely sensitive to water conditions. Temperature, dissolved oxygen, pH levels, and ammonia must all be monitored almost in real time. Even a small fluctuation can cause an entire tank to stop feeding, become stressed, or suffer disease outbreaks. Even feeding is treated like a precise nutritional science. The mixture of fish meal, enzymes, and probiotics is not simply blended together, but activated inside rotating tanks to create a soft, microbe-rich feed before being delivered into the ponds. The moment the feed touches the water, the young eels immediately gather into dense groups, nibbling and circling continuously like a perfectly programmed movement. After around 7 to 8 months, once the eels reach about 200 to 300 grams each, the system switches to automated harvesting. The water level is gradually lowered so the eels gather at one point, then they are guided through smooth pipes directly into the processing area. There, the eels are washed with high-pressure cold water to remove their slippery outer layer, before being rapidly stunned with ice-cold temperatures to preserve the texture of the meat. Next, the eels are filleted in the traditional Kanto style from the back, helping keep the body intact for the skewering process. Inside the grilling section, the eels are cooked at around 230 to 250 degrees Celsius to firm up the surface, then dipped into kabayaki sauce, made from soy sauce, mirin, sugar, and dashi. The grilling and sauce dipping cycle is repeated multiple times, creating a glossy brown skin while keeping the meat inside soft and rich, before the final products are packaged under strict hygienic conditions. Whale meat, once a strategic source of protein in the post-war era and a common staple in the lunches of millions of Japanese schoolchildren, as familiar as canned Spam is in the United States, has now declined to record lows, with annual production falling below 2,000 tons. That amounts to less than 10 grams per person per year, lighter than a single AA battery. Despite a steadily shrinking market, tens of millions of dollars in annual government subsidies continue to support the Kyoto Senpaku fleet, enabling voyages from spring through late autumn. Beyond commercial goals, this serves to maintain Japan's offshore processing logistics and distant water harvesting capabilities, an important contingency should imported food supplies be disrupted. At sea, the harvesting process is carried out with the precision of a heavy industrial assembly line. The crew, often marine mechanical specialists, operate like skilled technicians. A specialized harpoon is used to secure the target, after which the tail is fastened with high-tensile steel cables, combined with flotation buoys and hydraulic winches to haul the massive body onto the stern slipway. As soon as they are brought on board, the multi-ton carcasses are hoisted by crane directly into the vessel's onboard processing facility. Here, a race against time begins. The entire butchering process must be completed within 6 hours, before heat retained within the thick fat layer alters the muscle structure and degrades the meat's quality from the inside out. Inside the cutting room, workers use the umibocho, a large, wide-bladed knife made of ultra-sharp steel mounted on a wooden handle over 2 meters long. As the skin and fat are gradually separated from the skeletal frame, precise cuts reveal the most valuable portions of meat. The most prized is the tail section, known for its fine marbling, often valued on par with premium Wagyu beef. The meat is then transferred immediately into deep freezing chambers at around 60 degrees Celsius, a temperature that minimizes the formation of large ice crystals, preserving muscle fiber integrity and maintaining freshness for up to 2 years in frozen storage. Canned products, meanwhile, can last up to 3 years while still retaining their sensory quality. If you're curious about the taste, this red meat is often described as the venison of the ocean, thanks to its firm texture, rich flavor, high protein content, and relatively low fat. Notably, whale meat contains a compound called balanine, still not fully understood, but believed by scientists to contribute to the species' remarkable ability to withstand extreme pressure in the deep sea. Continuing from these massive offshore pursuits, we arrive at another symbol of endurance in Japanese culinary culture: aramaki-sake salted salmon, a premium delicacy that takes up to 5 weeks to transform into the gold of the coastal regions. The production season begins in late autumn, when chum salmon migrate upstream into the rivers of Niigata and Hokkaido, at the point when they reach optimal fat content and size in preparation for spawning. Here, artisans often harvest the fish using traditional handline methods to preserve the integrity of the scales and avoid physical damage to the meat's structure. Immediately after harvest, the fish are washed in cold water and eviscerated, a critical step that removes digestive enzymes and microorganisms that could spoil the flesh from within. This entire process is carried out swiftly to maintain absolute freshness before the fish enters its most crucial stage, dry salting. Skilled craftsmen, often seasoned artisans with an exceptionally refined tactile instinct, coat the entire fish with coarse salt, concentrating on the belly and head to ensure even penetration without over-curing or toughening the flesh. The fish are then stacked in large wooden vats, where heavy stone weights exert continuous pressure, forcing out residual blood and muscle fluids while triggering a cascade of biochemical transformations deep within. After about 5 days of salt curing, the fish enters the stage that defines its distinctive character: air hanging. Once rinsed to remove excess salt and the final layer of surface slime, each fish is tied at the tail and hung upside down. This crucial technique allows excess moisture and fat to drain away, while drawing nutrients from the tail toward the head and belly, intensifying the richness in the most prized sections of the meat. And what about those small bamboo sticks inserted across the abdominal cavity? They act as braces that keep the fish body stretched open, allowing cold, dry sea air to circulate through every crevice, ensuring the drying process occurs evenly from the inside out. After about 4 weeks, the surface of the fish develops a crystallized, protective dry layer, while the interior retains just enough moisture to prevent the flesh from becoming overly dry. At this stage, a simple thin slice and light grilling are enough to reveal a deep umami flavor and a firm texture that fresh fish can never replicate. To experience this level of craftsmanship, you would pay around $150 for a single aramaki sake, 3 to 4 times the price of industrially salted salmon, in exchange for a delicacy that is almost entirely handcrafted, reflecting the meticulous standards of Japanese artisans. Yubari King is a premium melon variety that once fetched a record auction price of 1.2 billion VNDs per pair, born from Yubari's bold decision after the collapse of its coal industry. In harsh winters dropping below -10°C, all melons are cultivated in greenhouses with precise temperature and humidity control. From the very beginning, each plant is individually nurtured and monitored before being transferred to larger beds, where drip irrigation systems maintain optimal growth. From planting to fruit formation takes about 50 days. During this stage, growers gently massage the fruit every day to create micro-stress on the surface. Though it may seem unusual, this technique stimulates the rind to crack in a controlled manner, prompting the plant to release sap that heals and crystallizes into a thick, raised net-like pattern. The density and uniformity of these veins are key criteria used to grade a premium Yubari King melon. Around 60 days after fruit set, the melon enters the harvest stage. Growers check the base for slight softness, then tap it lightly to listen for a deep, muted sound, an indication that the flesh is dense and fully ripened. Only melons with a near-perfect spherical shape, well-defined netting, and high sugar content are selected. They are cut with a long stem intact, then carefully shaped into a T-form, an initial signature that signals meticulous cultivation and premium quality. If Yubari melons are the king of summer, then when-dried persimmons are Japan's winter cash machine, generating hundreds of millions of dollars each year for cold, dry regions like Fukushima and Nagano. As temperatures drop, persimmons are harvested by hand with only large, firm fruits that retain their T-shaped stems selected for balanced hanging. More than 200,000 tons of fresh persimmons are harvested annually, though this figure is gradually declining due to labor shortages and shrinking farmland. After harvesting, each fruit is carefully peeled, briefly blanched in hot water for sterilization, and then tied, arguably the most critical step, to ensure no fruits touch and cause moisture buildup that leads to spoilage. The persimmons are hung in well-ventilated areas, exposed to cold air but protected from rain, making the process highly dependent on weather conditions. After about a week, once the skin firms up, artisans begin daily hand massaging each fruit to redistribute sugars, soften the texture, and encourage the formation of a natural white sugar bloom on the surface. After 4 to 6 weeks, the persimmons develop a soft, jam-like consistency with a deep reddish-brown color and rich sweetness. Each fruit can sell for up to $15, a price that reflects not only the intensive manual labor, but also the significant added value compared to fresh persimmons. Japanese Fuji apples, often up to 3 times larger than typical industrial apples, are known for their crisp texture, rich sweetness, and juiciness. So much so that every bite feels like tasting a spoonful of concentrated honey. They are a source of pride for Japan's apple industry, generating at least $2 billion annually from both domestic sales and exports. To secure this special position in the global apple market, Japanese farmers must follow a series of strict and meticulous cultivation processes, paying attention to even the smallest details. Let's begin the search for answers in Aomori, the apple capital of Japan. Every April, farmers carefully hand-pollinate individual apple blossoms to optimize the fruit setting rate and ensure it is as high and uniform as possible. By early summer, when young apples have just begun to form, each fruit is wrapped in paper bags to completely isolate it from pests, while protecting the skin so it remains smooth and blemish-free. Throughout the growing process, farmers continuously thin the fruit, rotate the apples, and adjust their exposure to sunlight so that every apple can develop the most perfect size and color possible. After about 5 to 6 months of care and patience, Fuji apples reach their ideal ripeness, signaling the start of the harvest season. This stage is carried out entirely by hand to minimize losses and reduce any potential bruising. Farmers gently twist each apple once to detach it from the branch, while keeping the stem intact. It is precisely this meticulous attention to even the smallest details that has turned Aomori into Japan's apple empire, contributing around 60% of the nation's total apple production, with more than 450,000 tons harvested each year. But the Japanese always find ways to amaze the world with unusual and highly creative innovations, even in agriculture. Japanese snow apples are one such remarkable product, created through a small, yet incredibly refined technique. Right in Aomori, Japan's apple capital, instead of harvesting apples at the usual time around October to November, some orchards deliberately leave the fruit on the trees until December, when hundreds of hectares of orchards begin to be covered in snow. This method is called yuki ringo. Its principle is quite simple, but extremely effective. As temperatures drop and snow blankets the orchards, the apple's metabolic processes slow down. The water content gradually decreases while the natural sugars become more concentrated. The thick layer of snow acts as a natural insulator, preventing the fruit from completely freezing and instead cold aging it right on the tree. As a result, Yuki Ringo apples develop a richer sweetness, a more pronounced aroma, and a crisp texture that stands out compared to ordinary apples. Meanwhile, in regions with extremely heavy snowfall, such as Niigata, where snow can pile up more than 2 to 3 meters deep during the peak of winter, the Japanese take advantage of nature itself as a massive, completely free cold storage system. After being harvested at the end of autumn, the apples are packed into wooden crates or specialized plastic containers and transported to natural snowfields located near the orchards. There, farmers arrange the crates in clusters either directly on the ground or inside compacted snow pits prepared in advance. On top of the crates, farmers place a thick layer of conifer branches, such as pine or cedar, creating a natural insulating cushion that also allows air to circulate. The entire area is then buried under several meters of snow. In some cases, specialized snow-blowing vehicles add extra layers of snow to reinforce the mound, forming a stable natural cold storage chamber. With temperatures staying close to 0 degrees Celsius and fluctuating very little, the apples can be preserved for months, while maintaining their crisp texture, moisture, and fresh flavor. Long after the main apple season has ended, these snow-aged apples finally reach the market as a premium early spring delicacy, often selling for up to 3 times the price of ordinary Fuji apples. If Yubari melons are the symbol of Hokkaido, then Sato Nishiki cherries are the calling card of summer in Yamagata, the cherry kingdom of Japan, producing nearly 70% of the country's cherries. To maintain that status from the very beginning of spring, Sato Nishiki cherry trees are not allowed to grow freely, but are instead cultivated almost like outdoor bonsai. Each branch is trained on trellises, oriented toward optimal sunlight and carefully height-controlled, because even slight misalignment with the light can reduce the value of an entire cluster from the earliest days of the season. But the real challenge appears just 2 to 3 weeks after blooming. Sato Nishiki cherries are almost incapable of effective self-pollination. As a result, orchards must introduce seasonally rented bees, sometimes up to 10,000 to 20,000 per hectare, to ensure that every small flower has the chance to become a perfect cherry. And when harvest season arrives around June each year, while many cherry orchards in the United States, use powerful trunk-shaking machines to harvest entire crops within minutes. Sato Nishiki orchards still rely entirely on hand-picking over the course of several weeks. Not due to a lack of technology, but because the cherry stems are so delicate that even the slightest force can immediately affect the fruit's quality. First, farmers spread waterproof plastic sheets on the ground around the base of the cherry trees to keep the harvesting area clean and to protect any fruit that might accidentally fall, preventing direct contact with the soil. At the same time, these sheets make it easier to spot and collect the cherries, ensuring that the delicate skin remains unscathed. Once this is done, pickers use low ladders to reach each cluster at the ideal height, gently lifting each cherry from the branch with almost a single touch, because even the lightest contact can cause the fruit to fall short of premium gift standards. The moment it leaves the branch, the journey of a luxury known as Sato Nishiki cherries truly begins. Each fruit is placed into grading molds, inspected for color, size, and gloss, then arranged into individual slots in trays before being boxed, a process that resembles packaging high-end watches more than handling fruit. This strict selection means that over 70% of the yield is discarded during sorting, with only the most perfect cherries retained, where their deep sweetness creates the near-perfect flavor profile of premium Japanese cherries. Sato Nishiki cherries are not just fruit, but a ritualized summer gift in Japan, where carefully selected early-season boxes can reach up to $300, because each cherry is the result of precise care and rigorous selection throughout the entire growing season. At the next stop, let's head to Thailand, the king of durian, with over 1 million tons exported each year. But the prestige of Thai durian lies not only in its volume, but also in premium Nonghang durians that have been auctioned for up to $20,000. And despite the extraordinary price, thousands of people around the world are still willing to spend huge sums just to challenge themselves with one of the most controversial fruits on the planet. From May to August each year, during the peak of the tropical summer heat, Thailand's durian harvest season officially begins. With Nonghang durians, harvesting is almost like a high-stakes game. When the fruit is ready, farmers use knives attached to long poles to cut the stems. But with trees reaching heights of 20 to 30 meters, things become far more dramatic. One person climbs the tree while another stays below, holding nets or sacks to catch the fruit, working together almost like a professional catching team, because a single misstep can mean losing a fortune hanging in the air. Once they leave the orchard, Nonghang durians rarely appear in ordinary markets or enter mass processing lines. Instead, they are often sent directly to fruit festivals, showcased at high-end banquets, and gradually become a symbol of status and prestige. Leaving the durian orchards of Thailand behind, we arrive at Oishi Strawberry Farms in the heart of New York, home to some of the most expensive strawberries in the United States. For most of agricultural history, strawberries have always been a story of soil, rain, and bees. But at Oishi Farms, that story has been completely rewritten. Here, strawberries don't grow in soil. They grow in multi-layered vertical indoor farms that operate more like semiconductor factories. No rain, no pests, no contaminated soil, and no need for bees. Pollination is carried out by robots, precise and consistent, like a semiconductor production line. Temperature, humidity, and lighting are controlled hour by hour, simulating ideal growing conditions that nature can rarely maintain consistently. Beyond that, rotating growing racks, integrated with LED lighting, operate 24/7, continuously adjusting so that each plant receives the same optimal amount of light. But the most impressive moment comes in winter, when robots begin the harvest. They don't see through human intuition, they read the plants through data. The machines move along rails between the strawberry rows at a steady speed to avoid vibration. Computer vision cameras scan each cluster, analyzing color, gloss, and size to identify perfectly ripe fruit with over 90% accuracy. In an instant, a robotic arm adjusts its angle, cleanly cuts the stem, and places the strawberry into an individual tray, like handling delicate electronic components. After harvesting, each strawberry is transferred to a quality-controlled packaging area, where even the smallest imperfections are removed. The result is glossy red fruit with an intense aroma, deep sweetness, and a juiciness far beyond ordinary strawberries, almost melting the moment it touches the tongue. So what makes Oishi strawberries so much more expensive than regular ones? It's not just the technology, but the cost of maintaining a perfect ecosystem in the heart of expensive New York. From the energy required for LED systems and environmental control to the machinery, operations, and extremely low yield, each strawberry is the product of cost, time, and near-perfect precision. People often think only heads of state or billion-dollar diamonds require security escorts. But deep beneath the forest soil of Europe, there exists a delicacy that has been flown to New York by private jet with its own security team and sold at auction for up to $61,000. That is truffle, the mysterious king of the fine dining world. What makes truffle so expensive is not just its rarity, but its incredibly controversial aroma. It contains a compound called 2,4-dithiopentane, also found in the smell of damp socks or body odor. Yet when blended with dozens of other natural compounds, it transforms into a signature scent that fascinates connoisseurs, almost like an addictive, invisible luxury. There are over 200 species of truffle worldwide, but only a small number are considered truly exceptional. The most famous among them are Italian white truffle and French black truffle. To find them, hunters don't carry radar or modern scanners, but dogs worth up to $10,000. When they catch the scent of truffles, the dogs stop, circle to, lock onto the target, then gently scratch the ground with their front paws, just enough to reveal the location without damaging the fungus. In the past, female pigs were used as they are naturally attracted to the scent of truffles, which resembles the pheromones of male pigs. Sounds perfect until one problem became clear. Once pigs found them, they ate them. Because of their extreme rarity and high value, humans have attempted to domesticate truffles. However, only black truffles can be cultivated with some degree of consistency. White truffles, the most expensive variety, remain almost impossible to farm, forcing humans to rely entirely on nature. Now let's begin our journey of discovery, starting inside large-scale sprout production facilities, where each tiny mung bean is awakened to begin a new life cycle through modern cultivation methods. The very first step, which may seem simple but is absolutely crucial, is seed selection. To produce a batch of white, plump, crisp, sweet, and uniform sprouts, mung beans must be carefully chosen. Only round, firm, evenly sized beans, free from mold, pests, and with a germination rate above 95% are accepted for production. Before use, each batch of seeds undergoes strict quality inspection and is then stored in specialized cold rooms where temperature and humidity are consistently controlled to preserve freshness and germination capacity. When production begins, the seed bags are taken out of storage and poured into a loading hopper, which feeds them directly into warm water tanks maintained at about 35 to 38 degrees Celsius. This soaking stage lasts for several hours, allowing the beans to fully absorb water and swell evenly, while discarding any hollow or damaged beans that float to the surface. The purpose of this process is to awaken growth, activate the embryo inside each seed, and prepare them for the next germination stage. After about 8 to 12 hours of soaking in warm water, the beans are transferred into cool water to be refreshed, then placed into vertical stainless steel cylinders or specialized sprouting trays. From there, they are moved into sealed germination chambers, where the temperature is kept stable at 24 to 28 degrees and the air humidity maintained at 90 to 95%. Throughout the 4 to 6 day germination period, an automated system sprays clean or sterilized water several times a day, keeping the beans moist without flooding them. Light is completely excluded, allowing the sprouts to develop white, crisp, and plump stems. When the sprouts reach a length of about 4 to 6 centimeters, the germination containers, now filled with thick clusters of white sprouts, are transferred to the preliminary processing area. The masses of plump white sprouts are emptied into a collection hopper and sent directly into the automatic pre-processing system. This crucial first step separates the sprouts from the germination environment and prepares them for the cleaning line. As soon as they enter the processing line, the bean sprouts pass through a rotating shaft fitted with steel prongs and scraping teeth. This mechanical motion helps remove the long roots and any remaining seed coats from the sprout stems. As a result, the product gradually becomes cleaner, more uniform, and suitable for commercial presentation. The byproducts, such as roots and seed coats, are collected in large plastic bins for disposal or reuse as animal feed. After the root removal stage, the sprouts continue along a mesh conveyor belt and pass through multiple layers of strong water jets from a high-pressure spraying system. The continuous flow of cold water not only washes away impurities, but also cools the sprouts, helping preserve their crisp texture and natural white color. In certain steps, the sprouts are also soaked in clean water, while vibrating sieves separate out undersized, broken, or substandard sprouts. To ensure food safety, modern production lines are additionally equipped with misting or ozone water spraying systems. This step helps minimize the risk of bacterial contamination and extends shelf life. Rapid cooling directly on the conveyor further enhances freshness retention before packaging. After washing and disinfection, the bean sprouts pass over an inclined mesh conveyor to remove excess water. Streams of compressed air or cool airflow are blown strongly from above, allowing the sprouts to dry quickly without being damaged. At this stage, the sprouts have reached the desired level of cleanliness, whiteness, and crispness, and continue moving along the conveyor to the weighing and packaging area. Here, the bean sprouts are dispensed into a multi-head weigher, an advanced device capable of portioning products with gram-level accuracy. Small hoppers rotate in sequence, opening one after another to release just the right amount of sprouts into collection chutes. Thanks to this process, every finished pack consistently meets the factory's weight standards, typically 200 grams, 500 grams, or 1 kilogram, depending on market demand. Immediately after weighing, the sprouts drop straight into the automatic packaging machine. Pre-rolled food-grade plastic film is cut into segments and opened beneath the filling spout. As the sprouts fall in, the bag opening is clamped shut and sealed by heat. At the same time, the machine can either remove excess air or inject clean gas, nitrogen, to extend shelf life and keep the sprouts fresh and crisp. Finally, all finished products are vacuum-packed, placed into cartons, and stored, ready to be distributed to consumers. But what if you tried growing your own bean sprouts at home? In fact, cultivating bean sprouts is incredibly simple and fun. This sprout vegetable hardly requires any soil, just clean water, darkness, and a little patience, and you'll have a harvest. They can thrive in almost any container, from small pots, bamboo baskets, tin cans, or even cut plastic bottles, as long as there is drainage and no direct exposure to light. The process begins with carefully selected mung beans, round, firm, and free from pests. After soaking the beans in warm water for 6 to 8 hours to allow them to swell, rinse them thoroughly and place them into your chosen container. Then cover with a damp cloth to maintain moisture and block light. Each day, rinse the beans 2 to 3 times to keep them moist but not waterlogged. After about 3 to 4 days, plump white shoots will begin to sprout, and within just 5 to 7 days you can harvest. At that point, simply pull out the sprouts, wash off the roots and seed coats, and they're ready to be enjoyed in your dishes.